as I mentioned earlier on, relocation of minor children. What are the applicable legal principles involved? So if you are planning on relocating with a minor child, please consider this article, and hopefully after having read it, you'll have a better understanding on the issues of relocation of minor children. So this video will not be too long. You'll also note that I have not put on my video. The reason for that is trying to save on some resources on the PC so nothing will blur or stuck, as I would say. Okay, so there's a bit of an introduction on the website, www.ourlawyer.co.za, and obviously today's date, 21st of February 2022, is our most recent article published today. We try to publish an article at least once a week or every second week, sometimes twice a day if we are lucky. So we start off with a bit of an introduction explaining the situation, the concept, relocation, what are the implications of that. The bottom line, I would say, is that if a minor child relocates, the case is not as simple as a normal care and contact case. A care and contact case basically goes around the premise that there is a dispute regarding what type of contact a parent should have regarding a minor child, which the court can apply its mind to it and say, you know what, the child is 10 years old, the child lives 5 kilometers from both parents, the child goes to school closer to the mother. When the child comes home, the child should go to the mother first and freshen up, have food, whatever the case may be, do the homework, and then the child can travel to the father 5 kilometers later and have contact. So there are there are many possible scenarios that can be applied, many possible solutions that can be applied. The amount of them are obviously countless. The minor child can either live with the dad for 1 week or the mother for 1 week. The father or the mother can have contact every second weekend, half school holidays, maybe 5 days with one parent, 5 days with the other parent, or maybe they can play around where they say, in week one, contact will be for 3 days, but in week two, contact will be for 2 days and will alternate and so on. So the possible scenarios are endless. You can play around, and whatever is obviously applicable and in the minor child's best interest. Regarding relocation matters, the outcome of the process would mean that a parent will no longer have physical contact with a minor child, as that parent would usually have had the minor child not have relocated. So let's use an extreme example. If the minor child relocates to Canada, what would that mean? It would mean they'll only have video contact. They would only see each other via Zoom or WhatsApp video or FaceTime and so on. But their bonding experience will not be the same as it was in the past. Hug each other, play with each other, touch each other, and so on. That will no longer be applicable. And the parent will no longer be able to see the minor child grow. All that the parent may see are maybe video clips, pictures, and maybe video communications, but not as in-person contact and care. So those are obviously very technical, sorry, very difficult issues to deal with, and we'll see a bit later. So having unpacked that, many people pose a question to me, what does the law say regarding relocation? So obviously, as an advocate, someone that deals with this on a regular basis, I am constantly drafting legal documents regarding care and contact applications. So that would obviously entail notice of motions, founding affidavits, supplementary affidavits, heads of arguments regarding this. And in my heads of arguments, I'll obviously have to outline various legal principles, various laws, and obviously apply that to the facts of my specific case. So if I'm dealing with a local relocation and the facts support a certain type of scenario, then I will apply certain legal principles applicable to that specific case to my matter, which is quite simplistic. If we're dealing with international relocation, I have to apply the law applicable to that as well. Is the relocation in good faith? Is it in the child's best interest? Is it reasonable? And so on. So I have to obviously play around with that. But at the end of the day is the court does not want to listen to my legal principles, my own legal principles, Advocate Abduroaf. The court wants to listen to other courts' principles laid down, the Constitution, the Children's Act, case law, and so on. So there is a case, a quite recent one, a relatively recent one, the case of LW versus DB 2020, Gauteng. And the reason why they don't use the full names because there are minor children involved, and we try to keep the identity of minor children out of the picture when it goes public. So when the judgment gets published online, you won't find any details of the minor child. Even if you look in the judgment itself, you wouldn't necessarily find the child's full name, or you wouldn't be able to connect the dots as to who the minor child is. The court outlined the principles applicable to the relocation of children. Okay, I'll read it out. Certain guidelines may be distilled by the Constitution, judgments of South African courts, and conventions to which South Africa is a signatory. So here are the guidelines. The interests of children are the first and paramount consideration. Very important. We focus on what is in the minor child's best interest. B. Each case is to be decided on its own particular facts. So we do not take out a template and say, child is 5 years old, dad works here, mom works there, child does mathematics, child does plays rugby, therefore that specific scenario applies to that child. We don't take out the algorithm. We have to look at all the facts holistically. Who are the neighbors? Who are the extended families? What illnesses does the minor child have? What challenges does the minor child have? Who will care for the minor child overseas? What support structure is there overseas? And so on. C. Both parents have a joint primary responsibility for raising the child, and where the parents are separated, the child has a right and the parents the responsibility to ensure that contact is maintained. Very important, despite the relocation taking place. Both parents still have an obligation to care for the minor child. That is very, very important. You should take note of that principle because it does not mean that the minor child relocates to China, to Hong Kong, wherever the case may be, and that the parent remaining in South Africa has no longer responsibility to care for that child. That parent still has to try to care for that child with video contact, maybe helping the child with mathematics, online, whatever is appropriate and possible. D. Where a custodial parent wishes to emigrate, so leaving South Africa, going to a different country, a court will not likely refuse leave for the children to be taken out of the country if the decision of the custodial parent is shown to be bona fide, meaning in good faith, and reasonable. So a bad faith would be maybe, for example, just leaving to show the parent in South Africa, I'll show you a thing or two, or leaving without any valid basis, or just leaving for the sake of leaving, and not having thought through the process, not having made arrangement that side, and just going because she wants to get out of South Africa or he wants to get out of South Africa. And it must be reasonable. I mean, why? Is it for working purposes? Has this person remarried or met someone there and started life over there? Is the person going back to his or her place of birth, etc.? So that's very important. The courts have always been sensitive to the situation of the parent who is to remain behind. A very sad situation. As I mentioned earlier on, the parents will no longer have contact with a minor child as he or she used to, in the sense of not see the minor child every day, not hug the minor child, not play with the minor child, and so on. Just give me 1 second. And then lastly, what does the court say? The degree of such sensitivity and the role it plays is determining the best interest of the child remains a vexed question. Okay, vexed means a difficult, an evil one, a difficult, challenging one. It's a very old word they're using there. Then the court goes further in applying the best interest of the child principle. It refers to the Constitution. Each case is different. Various factors it outlines. It refers to another case of Ford versus Ford, a 2004 case. and so on. So I'm not going through all of those principles. Please, I welcome you to have a look at our website, www.ourlawyer.co.za. But here I'll quote this part. The best interest principle is used to provide a framework for addressing the entire range of major issues affecting children. The principle may be invoked in relation to and in the context of the separation of the child from the family setting, adoption, and comparable practices, parental responsibilities for the upbringing and development of the child, the child's involvement with the police and the justice system, the provision of housing and social services, access to schooling, and so on. What the court is basically saying, wherever we're dealing with minor children, we have to look at this principle. What is in a child's best interest? And having moved from there, we can now determine what type of decision to be made. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for watching this short video. I would advise you to have a look at our website, and if you are involved in a relocation matter, which is possible, you would like to relocate from Cape Town to Johannesburg, from KwaZulu-Natal to a different province to the Northern Cape, wherever it is, and there is no consensus regarding the relocation, you see there's been problems. Try to understand the law first. You might ultimately see an attorney, see an advocate, obtain legal advice. But if you understand the legal principles on how relocation works, what is in a minor child's best interest, how those principles work, it may just assist you in getting better results as opposed to going into it blindly. The same way, if you are the person or the parent who wishes to oppose relocation, there's nothing wrong with that. You're entitled to do that. And the same way, understand the principles because you not want to oppose it if there is no merits in your opposition, or ultimately. But if there are merits, great. You have prepared yourself accordingly. Thank you very much for watching this video and for your time, and I hope to see you online again soon.